I get email like this a lot. Hi Varun, I'm in love with your videos. You are amazing. Though I have a doubt in procurement management as I don't work in contracts much. It's a procurement team who handle contracts. Can you please guide? That's exactly how I felt before I officially became a full-time PMP exam prep trainer. I never worked on contracts personally, even though I was a full-time project manager. It was always my procurement team who handled the contracts. But yes, I do help in negotiations, vendor selection process, etc. etc. So now in this video, I'm going to talk about task number 8 of domain people, which is negotiate the project agreements. By the way, who am I? My name is Varun and I am the founder of EduHubSpot, a training company which teaches PMP, ACP, RMP, PGMP, PFMP, SAFE certifications, like you name it, and we do it. My team and I have given thousands of PMPs to this industry. So let's go right into it. So we are in chapter number 1, effective team formation. If you are watching this video for the first time, you know I explained the entire PMP concepts using the PMP exam content outline. I explained the project like a day-to-day project, what you do in your real life, so that you can understand the dynamics of your entire PMP study. So first, we are dealing with chapter number 1, effective team formation, and in that we will talk about task number 8, which is negotiate project agreements. So far we have talked about how we build a team. So when we started the project, what we did, we make sure that I have my A team with me. Then once I have had my A team with me, the next thing I did was I made sure I defined those ground rules with them. Everyone should be on the same page. Now let's talk about task number 8 of domain people, which is negotiate project agreements. We deal with third party, we deal with vendors, buyers, sellers all the time. So this particular this particular task is about negotiating the project agreements. Now I would not go into too detail on contracts, different type of contracts and stuff, because that is something I have explained the later chapters. But for now I will definitely give you some basic structure of how agreements work. So let's first start with the exam content outline, the different enablers we have for this task. And you know what? We will go to my free exam content outline tool and read it from there. So this is task number 8, which is 1.3, negotiate project agreements. So this is what we're gonna have to do. Now, if you need this, let me click on this. It will take me to my subdomain sheet. A couple of enablers we have, so we have to talk about that. So if you need this sheet, you just need to go to my website www.eduhubspot.com. Don't go now, but after the end of the video, all that information would be mentioned in the description of the YouTube box. And just talk to my team on chat, and they will set up a Zoom call with you, and they will give this for free of cost. I mean, yes, if you're not my student, then also they will give it to you for free of cost. Nothing to worry. Okay, let's see. Negotiate project agreement. We have domain people. Let's see. Analyze the bounds of negotiation for agreement. Negotiation plays a very important part when you are dealing with project agreements. You want to make sure that it's a win-win for both buyer and seller. It should not be like that if you are a buyer, you are more focused towards a win scenario for you and failing scenario for the seller. No, it should be win-win. Assess the priorities and determine the ultimate objective. Exactly. You want to make sure that you determine the priorities. Tell the team, like for me, the priority was not to talk about PMBOK 7th edition or PMBOK 8th edition or 6th edition or whatever. My priority was to explain the PMP exam structure on exam content outline, because that's what PMI says. So I determined my priority, right? Verify objective of the agreements is met. Yes. So whatever requirements you have mentioned in your project agreement, you have to verify to make sure that whether those objectives are met or not. Like for this video, if you go through this video and if you are able to understand the end-to-end of this particular task, then I would say I did a good job. That was the objective. That was your objective also, to learn something, right? Participate in agreement negotiations. As a project manager, it's your job to work with your procurement team to make sure you participate in these negotiations, because it's you who knows end to end of what really is needed, not your procurement team. They may guide you with basic contracts, what contract types to take and things like that, but it's typically you who knows the requirements of the project. And last, determine a negotiation strategy. We will talk about what negotiation is, what different strategies are, but yes, you have to work on the negotiation strategy as well. Let's see some questions we have. In this, we have 2 questions. We will talk about these questions in at the last section. I'll just talk about one of them, and the other one I will leave it for you to keep try it yourself. So okay, let's go to our course, the concepts. So what is a negotiation? I think this is something which all of us know. It's actually a very common English word, negotiation. It's more like a discussion happening between a buyer and seller to make sure that it's a win-win for both of you. Remember, wear your PMI hat while answering the questions. It should not be a win for you as a buyer, it should be a win for both of you. So it's a mutual agreement where both the parties agree on something. Like if you say, Varun, I want your team to help me with the PMP certification. Okay, I'll say, okay, why not? This is how much it is, this is what it costs. And now let's say you're talking about negotiation. Hey Varun, can I get a 10% discount? And I'll say, no, I can't give 10%. Let me give you a 5%. Or that's negotiation happening between you and me. Okay, so what are the different agreements? What all things are included in this? Deliverable information or SOW? Yes, you do negotiation when you are working on a statement of work. High level timeline with milestones, pricing and payment terms. When you are developing an agreement, you definitely need to make sure you mention the high level timeline, and this is where you will negotiate with the team, correct? How to report performance on projects, quality requirements, inspection and criteria for project acceptance. Exactly, you have to make sure if you have given the project to a third party or someone, you have to monitor their performance. Warranty support, incentive, penalties, termination, insurance, if there is some kind of insurance, change request process, because let's say you are dealing with 2 different entities. You are a buyer, you are a different organization, seller may be a different organization. So there need to be a specific change request process which is dealt with you should be on a common ground basically. By the way, since we are talking about change request, it's a very important task, I would say. We will talk about the change request task in detail. I think it's part of your, execute the project work, so which is your chapter number 3. Then subcontracting, like for example, if you're dealing with a particular seller, that seller might be subcontracting to someone else to get the work done. Now let's talk about our project. Let's say I want to open a cupcake, a bakery. Now the cupcake, a shop where I can sell cupcakes, a bakery, right? Now over there you have different team members. You have a baker, you have the front desk guy, you have a delivery boy, you have someone who is attending the the customers. Now all these people, if for example you want to make sure you have outsourced the marketing effort to a third party team, right? Someone else is doing the marketing for you because you don't have time, because you want to ship your cupcakes to all over United States. What will you do? You will negotiate with them. It should be a win-win for them as a seller, you as a buyer who's taking that service, and you will definitely measure the success of your marketing efforts, you'll put some quality requirements on that. And what is the warranty support? If they are not, if let's say the shipping company is messing around with your products, basically your product is a cupcake, then what will happen? Is there any warranty support? So things like that are always taken into consideration. Now you have a service level agreement. Now service level agreement, I would say, is more like a subset of a contract. Okay, it's a contract, but think of it like a contract. Like for contracts, we have time and material, we have fixed price contract, we have cost plus contract. So all these we will be discussing at a later stage, but let me explain you what a service level agreement is. Let's say for your cupcake, you have a service level agreement with a local supplier who will give you sugar. Now you want to make cream on your cupcakes, right? So you definitely need good quantity of sugar on that. So you have a service level agreement with a local manufacturer who is giving you that sugar. Now in that service level agreement, it is specifically mentioned that what is the quality standard of that sugar. It should not be too sweet, it should not be less sweet, it should be in the middle. And the local contracting company, the sugar company, should give that sugar to you on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. And there is always some kind of service level agreement mentioned on that. That's your service level agreement. Another example, which is more common, which you can understand. Let's say you are working, you do customer support tickets, like support tickets, right? You call someone, you're calling someone, you need some help to a local company. They will open a ticket for you. Now that ticket has a service level agreement that this should be resolved in 2 days, 3 days, and things like that. That is their internal process which they have laid out. That's also another service level agreement we have. Now there are different negotiation strategies I was talking about we can use. Like for example, this negotiation strategies typically comes from the procurement team, not you as a project manager, but typically they will be the one who know the ins and out. Like they will come up with, hey, the first part we will do it on a fixed price, but then or on a milestone based, right? You complete your milestone, you get the money. Or it would be like more like we will pay you on an hourly basis. Things like all these are different negotiation strategies which the procurement manager employs. And of course, the project manager or the team member may involve. They can say that, okay, if you're offering me this much, if you're charging me this cost, then why can't we do one thing? Let's make sure that, instead of doing these X number of things, we will do X plus one thing. Okay, or the customer, if let's say the seller, you are trying to negotiate with the seller may say that, okay, if you want to pay only this much, let me cut the services. I won't do these 100 requirements, I'll do these 90 requirements, right? So in a predictive approach, it is little more well defined because you know what deliverables are. In an agile, it may vary. So, and this is something which will come with time, right? Now, performance reporting plays a very important part in your agreements. Why? Because I can say, like for example, the same cupcake example, the sugar, right? If let's say the local supplier is not giving you that sugar on time, then your customers are waiting. You're not able to produce that many cupcakes or cakes. So your production is it's a problem for you, correct? So you have to gaze the performance reporting of your of your sellers. Basically, you have to specifically mention that these are the things how we will measure you. Like for example, you can say within 2 months at least 40% of the work should be complete, or you can say that the quality level of that sugar should be of this units. Things like that. Then start and finish date of project activities, comparing with the actual cost and duration. Of course, you can say that, okay, you were supposed to start on this date, but you started on this date. You were supposed to finish on this date, but you finished on this date. How much we were expecting that you will put, we will have to spend X amount of dollars, but you did X plus one amount of dollars, right? We were supposed to do it in 2 months, but you did it in 3 months. All these are your performance matrix, which you typically do it in work performance report. And how many change requests came into place, how many defects came into place, all these things are part of your performance reporting. Now, I use this word work performance report because it's a common thing. It's a very common term. You will hear this a lot. Basically, three things: work performance data, work performance information, and work performance report. Now, what is work performance data? And a lot of people get confused. So if your mind is diverted doing 10,000 things, then hold on. Let's first listen to it. Work performance data is basically your raw observation. Now, when I say the word raw observation, what do I mean by that? Like, you put a raw observation on your project. Like, for example, you can say that I think my project will have 10 change requests. So that's more of a raw observation. You don't have a clear you think about it. When you have little more concrete information, that raw observation will become work performance information, which is something which you have little more information, like your CPI, your SPIs. Like, we had 30 defects on the project. We completed on 10th of January or 15th of February, whatever. All this is your work performance information. Basically, you convert the work performance data into work performance information. And finally, your work performance information gets converted into your work performance report. And as the name states, what is work performance reports? Basically, it's a dashboard. It's a report. Information you are mentioning, your CPI is 1.1, your SPI is 2.5, whatever. Now, if you don't know what CPI or SPI is, it's absolutely fine. I've explained that in your schedule management, in your plan the project work, which is basically next chapter. So don't worry about it. Link is in the video for this is in the description. But think, you have in the month of January you had 10 defects. In the month of February you had 15 defects. In the month of March you had 5 defects. So you create some kind of, I would say, like a histogram, and you mention it in some Excel format or a dashboard. That's your work performance report. I'll give you an example of your PMP. You think that it's a very difficult exam. So that's your raw observation, which is your work performance data. Then you start practicing these test questions, start watching these videos on my website, www.eduhubspot.com, and our tests are showing that you are scoring 50%, 60%. That's your work performance information. But then when we put that information, you go in and give the actual PMP exam, you get a report from PMI that congratulations, you passed the exam with above target in all domains. That's your work performance report. And in order to do these negotiations, there are many techniques which are used. One of the common one is expert judgment. I will be using this a lot. Like, you can talk to someone who is an expert in this area. Like after people, they do their PMP, they talk to me and ask me, Varun, what do you think? What should I do next? I have such a good momentum. Should I start talking about PMI ACP? Should I start talking about RMP, PMI risk management, Agile? Or should I start talking about program management? And people take help on their resumes. I help them with their CVs and guide them on the job side also. What am I doing all these things? That's an expert judgment which I am offering it to you. If you need such kind of help, that's absolutely fine. Shoot me an email. You have my email, varun.anand@eduhubspot.com, and I can definitely help you. No worries. I don't mind helping. When you are negotiating on the project agreements, you have a third party involved, you really need to have a resource calendar in place as well. Now, what is this resource calendar? Calendar, as the name states, is the start and end date, the working days, the shifts, and the holidays, night shift, day shift, things like that. All this is mentioned for all those resources who are working on your project. It could be an equipment resource, it could be an material resource, right? All these things are mentioned in your resource calendar. Basically, it's a documentation that will show when which resource is working, simple, on what day, time, things like that. And you will have your lessons learned register, because when you are negotiating these project agreements, you learn so many things that you have to make sure that you mention all that information in your lessons learned register. And you know what lessons learned register is? As the name states, make sure whatever you are learning, you are mentioning that in your register so that it can help you in the future. Like for example, I'm always asking my students that when they're watching this video, have a pen and paper ready with them. Why? Because I'll tell so many keywords to them, which they can write it down and which will help them eventually in their actual PMP exam. So I won't call it those notes as your lessons learned register, but still, if this is something which is helping you in future, right? Now you have, when you are negotiating the project agreements, you also have to negotiate in regards to your blackout times and go live. Now what is that? Blackout times is your seller, let's say if you're going for a big implementation. Now when I say big implementation, your cupcake website, now you are revamping the old website to a new website. Now for that new website, what you are doing is you are making sure that it's very fun, it has a lot of pictures of. Now you can say that, and let's say you have a testimonial or a blog service where a lot of people comment on the website. Now you can mention on your website that on this date, from this date to this date, let's say you can say for these 3 days, nobody is allowed to comment because you are transitioning to a new website. Like when we make a change to a new website, whenever we move, we always have that buffer period, or we say a blackout time period of, let's say 24 hours, where nobody is allowed to go on the website and things. And we have a plan B in place. We make sure the students' studies are not being impacted and things like that. But that's your blackout time, when no activity is allowed before you move to a new system. And what is go live? Go live is the date when you are publishing. Basically, let's say you planned that on 15th of February, my new website would be published and everyone would love it. I mean, that's what you're anticipating, but yes, so that 15th of February date is your go live date. So this marks the completion of the theoretical part. Let's see if you can answer some practice questions, and you remember, we will use my world famous elimination technique. And don't forget, after these questions, we will do some questions from the exam content outline free tool as well. So let's see how it goes. You are an independent contractor who works for companies to get contracts from potential buyers seeking project management services. Recently, you are approached by a company for your services. Your client asks you to deal with the negotiations to ensure they get the best possible rate. As an independent contractor, which of the following best describes your role? A. It is your job to get the best deal for your client, no matter what it costs to the buyer. No, not at all. Why? I told you it should be win-win for both you and a buyer and a seller. Remember, always wear your PMI hat. So A is gone. B. You want to get a fair deal for both buyer and seller? Exactly. I think that's an easy question. C. Normally in contracts, the buyer should get the best price. Your job is to make sure that it's not the case, and seller should, no, not at all. All this is just trying to confuse you. D. Try to prolong the negotiation, as this will help you get more and more fees. That's unethical. You don't want to do that. So out of all the 4 options, B was honestly a straightforward answer, which is the correct one, I believe. That's exactly correct. Perfect. Now guys, when I explain a question to you, I have a small request, and I forgot I should have told you before. Whenever you read a question, I'm explaining that immediately to you. But what I want is you pause the video when you read the question and try to guess it before you listen to my video, my explanation, because we want to see whether you're doing it right or not, right? So this is something which you should do it on your own. Your Agile team has identified some minor defects in the last 2 iterations from the materials provided by the contractor. They are discussing in a retrospective on what they should do to avoid it. What should they do first? So basically there are some defects in last 2 iterations, and you're discussing in the retrospective what could be done to avoid it. Okay, makes sense. So pause the video and think about the answer. It's an agile question. As you see the word iterations and stuff. I have explained my agile videos in detail in my agile section. because Agile is so important, I am trying to divide predictive and Agile separately and hybrid so that you can learn it easily. A, perform root cause analysis using dot voting. Okay, what is root cause? You try to find the root cause of the problem. But what is dot voting? Okay, if you don't know what dot voting is, again, this is an important concept which I have explained it in detail in my Agile video. Link is in the description, but that's dot voting. Typically, it's used, in your Agile side when you are trying to guess the story size, user story size. Like if more the dots, this means this is more important, or this is it will have more duration. Things like that. Again, I have explained it in detail in Agile. Perform root cause analysis, user failure analysis. Again, failure analysis is something totally different. That has nothing. This is more about defects. Some minor defects are causing. So B is out. Also, dot voting, as I told you, is more about user stories. The story sizes. We are talking about defects here. C, perform root cause analysis using fishbone diagram. Okay, what is fishbone? That's your cause and effect diagram. That's your Ishikawa. I will explain this in detail in the chapter number 3, basically when we are talking about quality. But let me just give you a hint. This is your fishbone, Ishikawa, and things like that. So over here, based upon the effects, you try to guess the causes of the problem. So if there are defects, you understand what the defect is, and based on that, you try to understand what is causing those defects, right? So that's actually, so basically I think the answer should be C, but let's see D. Perform root cause analysis using Kano analysis. Okay, Kano analysis is also part of your Agile. It's a very big topic, something which I can't discuss in just one small question. So out of all 4, the correct answer should be C, which is fishbone diagram. Okay. So now let's quickly go to our exam prep tool, free tool. Okay, so there are some questions over here also. We'll do one of them. The next question you can probably do it on your own, as I mentioned. Again, you can get access to this tool by going to my website www.eduhubspot.com. Just talk to my chat team and chat and support, and they will definitely guide you. They'll set up a Zoom call to explain the process, and they will give it to you for free. A, you were working on a cost reimbursable contract on your project, and it has finally entered the close project process. What is the most important thing that the buyer should do now? Okay, let me just increase the size first. Think about the question first before I answer it. A, make sure to decrease risk rating of the project in the risk register. So you are in the close project, you are in the end. At that time, risk rating has nothing to do with it. So I don't think so A is a correct answer. So just double click and see. It shows you it's a wrong answer. So that's out. Make sure the delivery and formal acceptance of the seller's work. Delivery and formal accept, yes, that can be a good choice, not a bad choice. We'll look at it at later stage. C, make any changes or corrections. Why would you make any changes or corrections at the last stage? This should be incorrect as well. So that's gone as well. That's a wrong answer. D, make sure the seller is not adding resources. Why would the seller add resources at the last stage? So again, this doesn't make sense. So this should be out as well. Double click, wrong answer. So the correct answer should be B, make sure of the delivery and formal acceptance of the seller work. And that's your correct choice. Perfect. Awesome. So once again, you can click here to see the answer explanation. It will show. You can also watch the video on this link. And there is one more question which you can try, second questions, but this is something I will leave it on you. You can go to my website to get access to this tool. So let's quickly do the revision. Focus on negotiation strategies. Yes, focus on the statement of work. I would say we kind of talked about it. The SLA, service level agreements and things like that. Then focus on performance reporting. What all things would you add in the agreements? And finally, focus on the blackout times and go live. So, and again, once again, practice as many questions as possible, and that is something we will be covering once we complete the complete chapter on your effective team formation. So quickly, let's see, we completed build a team, define team ground rules, negotiate the project agreements, which was this one. Now in next video, I will talk about empower team members and stakeholders. Stakeholder management, good and an important one. But before you go, please make sure you like and comment on this video. Do tell me if you learned something good or not. And by the way, I asked my niece who was here that how am I looking today, and she said, Varun, no, you know, in Hindi we call it Mamu. Mamu is basically an uncle. And she told me, Mamu, you look different. So by different, I kind of understood what she is trying to say. She can't say, Mamu, you're looking bad or you're looking good. I kind of felt that, you know, today I'm looking more fresh and looking good. So I just told you the story. I also don't know. So stay tuned and we'll talk in empower team members and stakeholders. You want me to do your neck? Yeah. Yeah, right. You have to do my neck and my body. I am tired. No, I'm, you know, I will take all this revenge today from you. Go. अच्छा ठीक है. Third क्या था? अच्छा.